Israel Declaration of Independence. I want you people to understand that the Declaration of Independent State of Israel was signed by 38 individuals. 38 signed the document of the Declaration of State of Independence of Israel. Are you aware of that? Are you aware that it was only 38 people that signed to declare Israel as an independent state? You don't know. Now you are knowing it today. I'm explaining to you. Formally, Declaration of the Establishment of State of Israel was proclaimed on the 14th May 1948 by a man called David Ben-Gurion, the executive head of the World Zionist Organization. The Zionist organization that this Hazel founded. Chairman of the Jewish Agency for Palestine and later the first Prime Minister of Israel. It declared the establishment of a Jewish state to be known as the State of Israel, which would come into effect on termination of the British mandate. Our own British mandate terminated in 2014. That was when the British mandate terminated. When they say you have 100 years after that to decide. Nobody is talking about the agreement and how Nigeria become a country from amalgamation to the independence to fake independence to today present Nigeria. They put it under the carpet because nobody have risen up to challenge them. Nobody have risen up to question the existence of Nigeria. Until now, we are questioning it under the Biafra government in exile. I will question it with gun. We will question it with bomb. We will question it with civility. We will question it diplomatically, and we will question it politically. And that is the multi-dimensional approach. That thing they are avoiding to discuss, that particular existence of Nigeria or continuation of Nigeria, they have been avoiding to discuss, will be forced to discuss. They will be forced.
Hello, good day, SMV. This is Satellite Media. Let us quickly examine some issues raised by the Finland-based Biafra agitator. I'm talking about Simon Ekpa, who is perhaps the Prime Minister of Biafra in exile. We are looking at it from the premise of what he said about Nigeria amalgamation expiring after 100 years. Of course, there have been so much conversation around this to the extent that some persons have argued that after 100 years that the amalgamation have expired. We equally be looking at it from the angle of some international laws, particularly Section 20 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. I'm talking about 1948, which actually guarantees self-determination. And we can understand that Nigerian government is a signatory of this charter, and it has been ratified in Nigeria. So to that extent, it is legal to say if one goes about self-determination as long as it's been done within the ambit of the law. I think this is one of the areas Nnamdi Kanu himself cited during the case in court, where he was saying that the right of self-determination as captured by human rights organizations, by UN, is already ratified in Nigeria. We'll probably be looking at the African Charter of Human and People's Rights, which equally guarantees self-determination. And we equally look at another article 3 and 4 of United Nations Declaration of the Right of Indigenous People. And that was done in 2007. Looking at all these laws, they are international anyway, but since they have been ratified in Nigeria, it is already domiciled in our legal jurisprudence. It goes to show that anyone going about self-determination, as long as it's done within the ambit of the law, will not be offending any relevant section of the Constitution, both locally and internationally. But I think what the Constitution frowns at, both internationally and locally, is where one is going about it through violence, wanton destruction of lives and property, killings and all that. Then we let us equally look at what came from Simon Ekpa, saying that about 38 persons unknown to the world signed the State of Israel before it came into being. Then, but particularly, let us dive into the issue of Nigeria expiring after 100 years. That is the amalgamation of Nigeria expiring after 100 years. We cannot independently verify any relevant section of the Constitution, both locally and internationally, where it is stated that Nigeria amalgamation expires after 100 years. But I think what is clear and anyone can rely on, as long as you are doing it within the ambit of the law, has to do with this Article 20 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights of 1948. I think that has been established, and since it has been ratified in Nigeria, it is already a law in Nigeria. So to that extent, if anyone is going about self-determination and is doing within the ambit of the law, I think the person is doing what is right. I think the only lie on government on that ground to see to perhaps engaging people constructively, maybe through dialogue, maybe through constitutional conference, to look at what is causing the agitation rather than using brute force to quell anytime we have an issue of agitation. Then we're actually looking at the African Charter of Human and People's Rights, which equally gives right of self-determination. And the third one has to do with Article 3 and 4 of United Nations Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous People. That is in 2027. But let us look at this vis-a-vis, or rather juxtapose it with what is happening in Nigeria, because we understand that the quest to have a sovereign state of Biafra have never been this loud. And we continue to look at what could be the reason why we see renewed agitation. We have seen people who should know better, who have attributed this to ideology. That is because of ideology, and that anything that has to do with ideology, if you must address it, it must be from the ideological point of view. Let me quickly cite what has always come from the Nobel laureate, and talking about Professor Wole Soyinka, who is always quoting the issue of ideology. That of course you cannot defeat Biafra since it's an ideology, and the government of Nigeria seems not to be willing to address it from that ideological point of view, because if you have an issue that has to do with ideology and people are agitating, you are not approaching it from that angle, definitely you may not have addressed the issue. But let us equally look at the issue of the issue that has to do with the marginalization of the southeastern part of the country. I think that is a major reason we are seeing renewed agitation, because when Ojukwu declared Biafra and war broke out, at the end of the day, after the 3 years or so struggle to achieve Biafra Republic, it was declared no victor, no vanquish. And Nigeria is supposed to continue to coexist as one entity. But seeing that after the Ojukwu episode, we have seen the lives of Owazurike, we have seen Nnamdi Kanu, currently we are seeing a Simon Ekpa coming up to renew the agitation. It's going to show that the major issue have not been addressed. And this major issue has to do with ethno-religious imbalance that has always existed in Nigeria. I think the Igbo man has been seriously marginalized in this country, if you must face the facts. And if you must disabuse the mind of Nigerians, especially the Igbos, Biafrans, not to sign on to any ideology of self-determination to have a sovereign state of Biafra, I think you must address those imbalance that is giving right to the agitation, so that you discourage or dissuade the mind of people from that region from signing on to anyone that will rise in the near future to address, to say, I want self-determination. Because today we are dealing with Nnamdi Kanu and Simon Ekpa. Who knows who will be involved tomorrow? And I understand that the case involving Nnamdi Kanu is currently in court, and there are moves to have a political solution to his travail. So at the last count, we understand that the judge in question, who is piloting the affairs of the court where the case is going on currently, I'm talking about Justice Bita Yako, have directed the two parties, that the government outside and then the council legal team, to see if they could reach out of court settlement. And that, of course, will mean political solution to his travail. And since then, we have seen an Nadekalo legal team through some political organizations, the political stakeholders meeting with the government side. We have seen senators from the southeastern part of the country under the leadership of Senator Inaya Abaribe meeting with the federal government through the office of the Attorney General of the Federation. A situation where Inaya Abaribe himself said he have met with Anena Nadekalo and he has secured his confidence to some level of having engagement with the government. We have seen House of Representatives, about 50 of them, coming up to write to the President, Senator Ahmed Bola Tinubu, asking for the release of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. We have equally seen the caucus of minorities in the House of Rep coming unanimously to demand for the release of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. And the last we are expecting is the one that has to do with the governors from the southeastern part of the country. I'm talking about Southeastern Governor Forum under the leadership of the Imo State Governor, that is Hope Uzodinma, who will be meeting with the president anytime soon, perhaps to finalize in what we may expect on the next adjourned date of the case. I think that will be on the 24th of September 2024 when the case will come up. Of course, the judge will make the word in the court to know whether the two parties have been able to reach out of court settlement, and perhaps if that have been achieved, I believe the settlement they have reached may form the decision of the court or what the court may adopt, and that may see Anena Kanu walk out freely from the DSS dungeon. But before then, the agitation may not mean an end to the agitation. That is to say, the government at all level, both the state level, the federal level, and even though the local government level may not have some power to or role to play in this regard, but I think the government at all levels should synergize to see to addressing the issues that give rise to this agitation. Understand that the current president, Senator Ahmed Bola Tinubu, recently signed into law a bill that seeks to address the age-long decadence in the southeastern part of the country. I'm talking about Southeast Development Commission. I think that is already in place. We can only encourage the government to put more money into that ministry when it comes into force to ensure that all the infrastructural decay in the region are addressed, to see whether that could address the issue of renewed agitation. I think this is a good place to let it go. I'm Mr. Matu, and this is Headline Media. Thank you for your time.